Welcome to Faith and Freedom. For the next few minutes, we hope to inform, inspire, and encourage you as we discuss the legal victories and challenges to your fundamental freedoms and religious liberties. Faith and Freedom comes to you from Liberty Counsel, a civil liberties education and legal defense organization. Join us now as Matt Staver, the President and General Counsel of Liberty Counsel, explains the latest legal issues all across this country in the courtrooms of America. Liberty Counsel is winning the battle for your constitutional freedoms.
President Obama's jobs bill attacks charitable deductions in favor of a nanny state big government program. I'm Matt Barber, Vice President of Liberty Counsel Action. Joining me again in studio today is Shawn Akers, Liberty Counsel's Vice President of Middle Eastern Affairs. Shawn, we talked yesterday on Faith and Freedom. President Obama has called for a $1.5 trillion increase in taxes as part of his, quote, deficit reduction plan. He's also calling for ending the Bush-era tax cuts for all families making $250,000 or more. His plan calls for about $3 in new taxes for every $1 in spending cuts. And economists have, in both sides of the aisle, are puzzled as to how the president thinks such a measure could possibly create jobs in our struggling economy. On top of that, President Obama's jobs bill, it discourages charitable giving and instead empowers, you guessed it, our already burgeoning massive federal government to take care of people from cradle to grave. This thing is a political stunt, I believe, in general, but President Obama is a true believer, and the radical leftist base of his party is all in on this, what we've been calling jobs kill bill, because that's just what it will do, is actually kill jobs, not create jobs.
You know, Matt, the wallet, economics, is really a magnifying glass of worldview, and in this case, worldview clashes. What you're watching play out here on an economic level is a clash of worldviews over where does liberty come from, and who should be the recipient of liberty, who should control liberty. And clearly, this administration believes deeply, apparently, that government should be the source of liberty and the grantor of liberty, and really, in essence, owns everything. Now, in our last program, I mentioned very briefly that I had a conversation with David Barton recently about the phrase pursuit of happiness in the Declaration of Independence. And what David explained, Matt, was that there was a lot of talk about using the term property in the Declaration of Independence, but they went with pursuit of happiness instead, because the pursuit of happiness, according to the writings of the time, encompassed more than just saying that you own something. It encompassed the ownership, the title, the use of a thing, so that literally you truly owned it. This is part of the reason that the founders hated property taxes so much, because you couldn't really own a thing. You didn't have full pursuit of happiness there unless you did it free of taxes. Now, what you see here, and you've pointed it out very effectively, is when the United States government begins to say, we don't want you giving money, we don't want to allow tax deductions for private charitable giving, what they're saying is that money needs to come to government, that government is the charity of choice for all American people, and that the way that you do good things is doing it through government. Matt, this is a clash of worldviews for those who value liberty over government provision.
You know, I once had a caller call into a radio program I was on and ask, is Barack Obama the Antichrist? I said, well, you know, I don't know if Barack Obama is the Antichrist. I suspect not. I've often said the Antichrist would not need an anti-teleprompter in order to get his socialist points across. However, I will say this. He is the anti-Reagan, the anti-Ronald Reagan, and it cracks me up to hear President Obama invoke Ronald Reagan in some of his speeches targeting independence to try to, spur on reminiscence and of a better economic times, certainly. But it was President Reagan who said, of course, famously, that government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem. And President Obama's Jobs Kill bill is a perfect example of that. Consider that, again, he's pushing for $1.5 trillion in tax increases, $3 in tax increases for every $1 in spending cuts. We don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem in this country. Imagine this. President Obama's increased $447 billion plan will create, he said, an estimated 1.9 million American jobs, which, right. Nobody really believes that. But if that's the case, the cost for that is $235,263 per job. Again, President Obama's own numbers betray the reality that government is not the solution to the problem. Government is the problem, and this president can't seem to get that through his head.
Now, Matt, let me give you an example here. We all, those of us who have fireplaces, when winter rolls around, we love to build a fire in the fireplace, and as long as you control it, you grant that fire a certain amount of your house space. It's a footprint about the size of your fireplace. You put a little bit of wood in it, you light the fire, and as long as that fire stays where it's supposed to and does what it's supposed to, it warms your house and does some great things. You would not move into a forest fire. You would not, if your house burns down, that fire ceases to be a good thing and becomes a bad thing. This is exactly what the founders of the United States did by drafting the Constitution of the United States. It set the parameter for government and says, government, as long as you stay within these parameters, and those parameters are very well defined, it is for these purposes that governments are instituted among men, that they are to protect the God-given inalienable rights of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. The moment government steps out of that, it's like a spark flying out of the fireplace and causing danger. What we see in bills like this particular administration is like throwing napalm. I mean, it is really spreading fire into places that it causes a great deal of destruction, and it brings not life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, but literally brings a challenge and a sabotage to life, to liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Very well put, Shawn. And rather than spurring on our economy and benefiting our economy and encouraging a free market and production, and what this does is it actually exacerbates the situation tremendously. But let's talk here again. Again, charitable giving is in the crosshairs with this, and that is by design. That's not by accident. To discourage people from giving to charities which can make better use of their hard-earned money, and to help people who really need help, that takes power away from the government. This is all about power. And we see with President Obama's so-called American Jobs Act, and isn't it wonderful how the left loves to use euphemisms? If they say something is an act, the American Jobs Act, you can pretty much flip that on its head. And it's not the American Jobs Act, it's the American No Jobs Act. Well, this act would take money away from charities, as we've said here, but several radical left-wing groups, we see cronyism on display here, such as Acorn. Remember the big Acorn scandal? They would become eligible for up to $15 billion of federal funding, groups like Acorn. And so this jobs bill, again, is just another federal stimulus program put in place to help, to aid and abet these groups that are pushing President Obama's, and there's no other word for it, socialist agenda. And I don't mean that as a pejorative. It's not a personal attack. It's not ad hominem. When the man's policies are truly socialist, we're just using a proper descriptive adjective for his policies.
Well, and Matt, one of the most concerning places about that are some of a very large portion of the charities in the United States that rely on charitable donations for their very existence. existence are churches. So you're looking at this not only taking away ordinary charities that do great things that are much more efficiently than the government, but literally those that provide for the spiritual needs of the nation as well.
That's very well put. Well, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those controlling the reins of government are displaying continuously hostility to the precepts our founding fathers held near and dear. Our Creator having given us certain unalienable rights, among these life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those things are under assault. Go to lc.org to find out how you can become part of Liberty Counsel's ministry, or give us a call at 1-800-671-1776. Stand with us in the gap as we defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
You have been listening to Matt Staver of Liberty Counsel. Our hope is to encourage and inspire you to stand up for your faith, family, and freedoms. We can accomplish a lot when we work together. Get informed and get involved today. Sign up for our free monthly newsletter, The Liberator. We will send it out to you free of charge. Stay informed with our Liberty Alert email update. Just click on the website at www.lc.org or call us at 1-800-671-1776. Tune in next time to learn more about your rights right here on Faith and Freedom.